Hey guys, I hope everything is going well with everybody. Today we're going to be beginning our next unit, which is chapter 5, polynomials. So I'm going to do kind of like the background information that you need before we get to 5.1. So I can statements, what you need to be able to do at the end of this. You should be able to demonstrate an understanding of polynomials, so what that is. Model, record, and explain the operations of addition and subtraction of polynomial expressions concretely, pictorially, and symbolically. So using images, we are not going to be using concretely because you guys do not have actual algebra tiles at home. But you guys will also be solving it with a picture and mathematically, which is your symbolically. You need to be able to model, record, and explain operations of multiplication and division of monomials. Again, we won't be doing concretely, but we will be doing pictorially and symbolically. So why is it important? Well, it does carry over into grade 10, both mathematics and in sciences. They're used where complex formulas are applied, such as physics, economics, genetics, space exploration, engineering, computer modeling, and statistics. When you're using this now, shopping and grouping things together. Okay, so it is a base unit that you guys will need to have for next year. So there is some vocabulary that you guys need to remember from previous years. That's very important. So the first one is a term. A term can consist of numbers and or variables that are separated by an addition, like a plus or a subtraction. For example, if I had something like 4 plus 6, I would say that I have two terms. I have a 4 and a 6. If instead I had something like A plus B minus C, I would say that I have three terms because this is separated, or A is separated from the B with a plus, and B is separated from the C with a minus. So I have three separate terms. Next word, this one you did use last year, coefficient. Coefficient in our nice easy thing was, or numerical coefficient, is the number that is beside the variable. So this coefficient is 3. This coefficient is -4. We have to keep the symbol that is in front of our number. It belongs with it. And if there is no number there, there is always a 1. So let's not forget that hidden 1, that's really -1y. So I would say that that is -1. Next word that you guys need to remember is a constant. A constant is a term in an algebraic equation that does, or expression, that does not change and does not contain variables. So if I had something like 2a plus 4, the 4 is a constant. I know what its value is. It's not changing. It is simply +4. And the last term that you guys should remember is a variable. A variable is any letter in an algebraic expression that can be substituted for a number. So an R, a T, a C, a D, another T. It can be any letter or symbol technically that represents it. Please be conscious of the variables that you are using. Don't use an O, looks like a 0. Some of our writing might not be the neatest. If you are not sure what it is, make sure you're using a letter that will not be mistaken as a number instead. So you're going to see a table come up that looks like this, and this is simply the vocabulary that goes with it. Terms, how many terms? Well, this expression is separated by an addition sign, so I have 2 terms. So I could say 2 terms, or I could name them if I wanted to and say that's -2x, and the other term is 10. My variables in this case is simply an x. The constant is +10, or I can just say 10. You don't have to put the plus sign when it is a positive. And the coefficient, so the number beside my variable, -2. If I did the next one, so number of terms, so I have A, 3B, and minus 6. So I have 3 terms, A, 3B, and minus 6. And the variables, in this case, I do have an A and a B. My constant terms, so I have that 6, but in front of it is that subtraction, so my constant becomes negative 6. I have to keep the symbol. And my coefficient, by the A, if there is nothing there, we say there is a 1. And next to the B, I do have 3. So if I have 2 variables, I need to have 2 coefficients, unless it's the same number. Third one, terms. Again, I have the xy, the 4z, and the 0 decimal 5. So I have 3 terms. The variables are x, y, and z. Constant, so the number by itself, well, it's plus 0.5, so I can just say 0.5. And the coefficient, so there is nothing in front of that xy, so I can say there is a 1 there. And that coefficient is attached to both of them because when they're next to each other, they're multiplied, so it's the same coefficient. And there's also a 4. Okay, if I'm just going to skip down a couple because I feel most of you guys will probably have a little bit of a grasp on that first concept. If I switch down to right here, 2x over 7 minus 6 out of 7. So terms, again, it has to be separated by like a plus or a minus, or in this case, an equal sign. So there's actually 2 terms in here. My variable on this case is an x. Then I'm supposed to have my constants. So my constant, not next to a variable, is negative 6 out of 7. So if it's a fraction, I'm going to leave it as a fraction. And the other side, my coefficient that goes with it, so next to my variable is 2 out of 7. And if I did the very last one, terms, once again, it's separated by 2 things, so I have 2 terms. My variables, this time I have a V and I have an R. My coefficients, so next to the V, there is, am I doing coefficient? No, I'm doing constants. I do not have a constant on this one. There's no constant because both sides, both parts of my term have a variable in it, so I would say none. And now my coefficients, so next to the V, I do have a 1. And next to the R, I have pi over 3. So I do need to keep my pi sign as is. So hopefully this makes sense. If you guys have a chance and you want to go back and fill in the rest of this table on your own, you're free to do so. At the bottom, there is the answers for you. And I'm going to end that first lesson there, and I'm going to come back with the keywords for the second part after this to kind of give you guys a little bit of a brain break. Have a restful period, and I'll see you back when you're ready for some more math.